Hello and welcome to Creative Writing for Children Athlone Facebook page, and welcome to what I hope will be a weekly event, Story on Fridays, all inspired by you and your wonderful feedback for the story I told last Friday. I love telling stories and I'm really glad to have an audience who enjoy the stories too. So today I'm going to tell a story that I heard for the first time when I lived in Edinburgh. I heard it in the Scottish Storytelling Centre, which is a wonderful place, a place that I really enjoyed visiting when I lived there. And this story I like so much that I really enjoy telling it and retelling it. And any child who's ever sat in front of me in a class will no doubt have heard this story before. But remember that a story is different. It takes a different form and a different shape every time you hear it. And you notice different things every time you hear the story. And it's also different every time you tell it. So this is a story about a girl called Sally, a very lucky girl who lived in the countryside where the fields stretched out before her, filled with adventure and possibility. Sally could not wait to get her summer holidays. The days and the weeks and the months stretched out in front of her, and she couldn't wait to spend those days and weeks and months with her very best friend Dara, because Dara was just like Sally. He loved adventures and he loved playing and he loved being outside, and every day was the beginning of a new adventure for both of them. And Sally felt that anything was possible once she had Dara there with her. Until one day Dara told her the bad news. Dara was going on holiday, not for a day or a weekend. Dara was going away for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, Dara was going away on holiday. Sally couldn't believe it. Dara had never been away for so long before, and she didn't know how she was going to spend her summer holidays without her best friend. So she ran home the day she heard the news, and she told her mommy all about it. Dara's going away. Dara's going away on holiday, and I'm going to be left here all by myself, and I'll have nobody to have adventures with. The days passed, and eventually Dara went on holiday. The first morning that Dara was gone, Sally was in a very bad mood. She came down the stairs, and her mommy said, "Oh, Sally, it's a lovely sunny day outside. The birds are singing, the sky is blue. It's a great day for an adventure." "I'm not going to look for an adventure today," said Sally. "What's the point? Dara's not here. It won't be any fun." "Oh, Sally," said her mommy, "there's always adventures to be found. You just have to go outside and be open to them." "No," said Sally, "I'm not." Said her mommy. She'd seen this mood before. "Okay, Sally, well, I'm going to give you something to do." "Something to do?" said Sally. "Yes, I'll give you something to do. I want you to go outside and find something for me." "Okay," said Sally, wondering what her mommy wanted her to find. "I want you to go outside," said her mommy, "and find a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside." "A little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside," said Sally. "Yes," said her mommy. "Do you think you could find it?" Now Sally was very determined, really. She liked adventures after all, and she felt that she was definitely up for this challenge. So out she went, outside, and she said to her mommy, "Yes, I will find this little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside." And when she got to the bottom of the path and out the gate, she looked all around her and she thought to herself, this might be a little bit trickier than I thought. She looked all around and she could see all the lovely houses. There was a blue house and a green house. There was even a pink house. But she couldn't see a red house. So she went off across the field and she looked back again and she saw a few more houses. And yes, in the distance there was definitely a red house. But this red she was pretty sure it had doors and windows. Sally saw one of her neighbours cycling past. It was Mrs. O'Mara, and she was on the way to the supermarket. She liked to cycle there. "Hi, Sally," said Mrs. O'Mara. "Hi, Mrs. O'Mara," said Sally. "Could you help me to find a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside?" said Mrs. O'Mara, stopping her bike and looking around. Now, I've lived here for a very long time, and I've never seen a house, any house, with no doors and no windows. Why don't you go and ask the wisest woman around? I don't need to tell you who that is. And sure enough, she did not need to tell Sally who that was. It was, of course, her granny, Granny Bessie. And Sally decided to go to her Granny Bessie, who knew everything, and to ask her for help. So off she set, down the road, past the cow. She took a turn at the horse, and then in front of her lay her granny's house. She stopped for a minute, but no, Granny's house wasn't red. It was white, and the door was wide open. Sally ran up to the door and knocked. "Come in," said a lovely, friendly voice, Granny Bessie. "Sally, you know you don't need to knock. Come on in, I'm baking." Of course she was baking. Granny Bessie was always baking. "Come in and help me." "Well, actually, I need your help," said Sally. "I need you to help me to find something." "Okay," said Granny Bessie. "I need you to help me find a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. I've been looking all around for it all morning." Said Granny Bessie. "You know what? I can't think offhand of any house with no doors and no windows. Why don't you go down to the end of my garden where there is a big tree, you know, the tree with the swing on it, and ask the wind to help you." This was getting a little bit silly, thought Sally, but still she was willing to try anything to find this little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside. So down she went to the bottom of the garden and she asked the wind for help. "Wind," she asked, "could you help me? Could you help me find a little red house with no doors and no windows and a star inside?" She couldn't help but feeling a little bit silly, but she asked again. And then she heard something drop. And at her feet was a bright red apple. She took the apple and she ran down the garden and into her granny's house and said, "Aunt Bessie, look what I found. Look what the tree gave me." "Look," said Granny Bessie, "you found it. A little red house with no doors and no windows." "Yes, but what about the—" Granny Bessie took her knife and put the apple on the table, cut it, and said, "And look, there's a star inside."